a 12-unit apartment complex across from Union Elementary on the corner of 224 and Riverside Drive. And we had several discussions about that, and there was a public meeting, and people came and voiced their opinion. Most of them were against it, some people were for it. But it's a forum that people can talk rather than just leaving it up to us. We welcome that from the people, that we want to know what they think, how we should proceed, and we value that information very much. We've had meetings about the woods with the leash law. It's always a big thing with dog lovers come down here, and some people want the dogs to fly through the woods freely, and other people want them on a leash, so that's always a point of contention. What else are meetings we have?
Can you explain what an executive session is? We're going to have one today.
Sure. An executive session, good question, is at the very end of the meeting, we try and go through everything. And at the executive session, it's only for people of council that it can be involved. It's sensitive information. It could be about litigation, could be about personnel, could be other things. So at that point, everyone would leave the meeting, and we talk about, for instance, someone wasn't doing their job in the police force, and we thought we should have to fire them. That would be something we talk about in the executive session, and then we come out of the executive session, and we would, vote on whether we want to do that or not. But that's it's not anything that we're trying to keep quiet, but it's just sort of private information until we figure which way we want to go from that. Our attorney, Anthony D'Appolito's very valuable with his information he gives us, legal opinions. I want to take that back. No, he represents us if there were any lawsuits, any potential lawsuits. He works with other attorneys. His day job, he works downtown in the prosecutor's office and with the children's services. So he has a good connection with a lot of attorneys around town. But he helps us because, believe it or not, sometimes people think we're doing the wrong thing and they threaten to sue us or they try to sue us or whatever. So he keeps us in line and keeps us on straight and narrow, make sure we do what we're supposed to do. Not that we don't, but sometimes we think we know something that we don't. So he keeps us in line.
For instance, tonight we have a class action that the village can be a part of. We have to decide, council will decide whether or not how they want to proceed. We have a pending civil litigation concerning some trees that were taken down on people's property, and they were a threat to the community, so the village council decided to take them down, and now the question is, who's going to pay for it? We think that the homeowners should pay for it. Homeowners disagree with that, so we'll talk about that. And I kind of help with any legislation, anything that they may have a question about. If you would look, I think you guys probably studied federal government, the president, Congress, Attorney General. Those things sound familiar to you guys? So, and I don't mean it, but the mayor would be like the president.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
The council would be like the Congress. They make the laws and they present them. And then I would be like the Attorney General. I advise the president, the mayor, and Congress on what to do. So we're just a smaller version of the federal government that runs the country. The state government has its own version. This is the local level of that government.
Good announcement.
Good.
How many?
Do you have a code book that you can show? A code book?
Sure. How many of them are here? How many of you guys are here? Can somebody tell me a number?
For your merit badge, how many people are here for that? Roughly? 10, 15?
Yeah. Anybody have?
About 13.
13? Okay.
Do you know what's your names?
Nope.
Just a rough idea.
These are the laws of the village. They're the ordinances. And if you would go to the state level, they would be the state statutes. If you go to the federal level, they'd be the federal laws. So each level has its own laws. If any of these laws would conflict with the federal law wins, and the state law would win. But these are what govern the village and the people that live and work and visit here. So this is what I'm paid to know.
What you do?
Yeah, I'm David Responti. I'm the zoning administrator. What I do is I actually issue permits to people who are building things in the village. I also cite people who are not keeping up their properties. Currently involved in some litigation because people see things opposite of the way that our zoning code is written. That's about it.
Where'd Nick go? He was trying to hide.
He knew you were going to
Yeah. What else do we do?
Why don't we find out what grade the fellows are what grade in school.
Sure. Are they different grades, Ken, or are they, what grades are these?
Yeah, they're different grades. They vary from like 5th grade up to age 18, senior in high school.
Okay.
Most of the boys here are probably, I think, 6th to 9th grade, it looks like. 5th to 9th grade.
Do you guys have any questions? Yes.
You introduced yourself as the mayor. Well, I'm confused because the township doesn't have a mayor.
Correct.
In a nutshell, can you explain the different forms of government between the two and why this one has a mayor and the other one doesn't?
Good question. Yes, sure. A lot of it's based on population. As far as we're concerned, a village is 5,000 people or less. In a city, it's 5,000 people or more. And then you have an option to just be a township, like Poland is, like Boardman, Canfield. And the way the townships are run, they have trustees and an administrator, which is different than us. So it's just a different form of government. As far as cities are concerned, the mayor has a more powerful role, like in Youngstown, or who else? Canfield's a city, Struthers is a city. The mayor has more power, which is just how it is. But yeah, it's just based on the size of their town and then the form you want to be. We could all be together theoretically as a township, and people always ask why don't you do that? And we've talked about there's pluses and minuses for both ways, but basically the size of your town and then the form of government you choose to dictate which way you go with that. But that's a good question. Thank you. Anyone else?
Government 101.
Yes.
I had a question about the ordinances.
Yes, sir.
Exactly, you mentioned that the state government takes precedence, or the state laws take precedence over the local ordinances.
Yes.
Who gets to interpret the ordinances and which one takes precedence? I mean,
What would happen is, for instance, I'll give you an example of a local ordinance and a federal law. There's an ordinance that we have, like every township and city around has, that says you can't put up any election signs any closer than 30 days prior to the election. Those ordinances and those laws are unconstitutional. The federal law allows for freedom of speech, and you cannot specifically limit political speech as one of the more protected forms. So even though we have an ordinance that says you can't put up a political sign more than 30 days prior to an election, if that ordinance would be challenged by anyone and brought to a federal level, we would lose, as would everyone else who has one. So you look to the judicial branch, and that's the branch is not here tonight. You have the legislative branch, you have the executive branch, you don't have the judicial. And that would be the entity that determines when there's a conflict between ordinances and laws and statutes, who prevails. They would look at the legality of not only our ordinance, but also the federal law. So if the federal law, let's say, was struck down and said, well, you know what, you can limit freedom of speech to an extent under certain situations, then our ordinance would be okay. So you start with the top and you kind of filter your way down as each court and each state and each jurisdiction interprets the law. So you'll have variances across counties, across states, and across the country. And ultimately, you look to the Supreme Court. When they make a ruling on a law, then that's the law. And that's the example I gave. The ruling I gave you was a Supreme Court decision that negated a lot of ordinances and a lot of statutes in a lot of states. So you look to the judicial branch to interpret when there's a conflict and help guiding the local legislative branch.
thank you.
Anthony, maybe you want to mention where our legal entity is, like Struthers Court.
Sure. The Village of Poland does not have its own court. We have, in fact, one of the questions I got this week was from our clerk about payment of traffic tickets. If you get a ticket in Poland, there's no court to go to. You can come here to the Violations Bureau and pay it, but you can't contest it. You can't say, you know what, I wasn't speeding. If you want to do that, you've got to go to Struthers. That's the nearest court that we have. Well, if you have something that happens in the Village of Poland that involves someone living here versus someone living, let's say, in Canfield, because we conflict with each other, no, we don't. But you would then go to a common police court. And actually, my father is a common police judge. So if anything happened in this town that I had to represent the village on, and it might happen here very soon, and we went to court, and it'd go to the common police court, if I happened to get my father's court as an assigned courtroom, I could not represent, well, I'd have to ask my father to recuse himself. So you start here, Violations Bureau with tickets, Struthers Court for minor offenses, and then you go to the common police court for higher degree conflicts, higher degree issues. If there's a conflict at that point, then you go to the appellate court, and then you go to the Supreme Court of Ohio, Federal Court, and then Supreme Court of the United States.
Thank you. Very good. Yep.
I do want to talk about the services, police, fire, street repair, so...
Yeah. What we do here is, and this is sort of our whole budget is, we have a report each month from Mr. Cernick, our fiscal officer, will give us our budget numbers each month. And Mrs. Cernick and Mr. Limmer, and are you in the finance, or Mr. Cassett are on the finance committee? You guys met last week, right? A week, 2 weeks ago? So what they'll do is they'll meet, and as often as necessary, but this time of year they'll meet to sort of plan out the whole budget for the year. And it's hard because with the size of the town that we have, and we don't really have any revenue like you look at Boardman or Youngstown, there's a lot of commercial entities around. We don't have that. So we're relying on a lot of money coming in from state funds and some ticket funds and other things, but those are dwindling each year. So it's tough for us to come up with a budget when these numbers change and you're forecasting what might happen, and it's a hard job. So a plethora. Yeah, from property taxes, that's where we get our money from. There used to be a state tax when someone would pass away. We would get a portion of that, but that has been filtered out now, so we can't rely on that anymore. It hurts us also. But we do the best we can, but what we have, we're pretty tight as far as spending money. We're not going to go out and just blow money left and right like some places seem to do and get in trouble. But what we do here as part of our services, obviously we have the police department, which everyone's familiar with. We have a street department, which does there's only basically 3 guys, 2 full-time and 2 part-time people. And they do pretty much everything around the village. They cut the grass, they plow the streets, they sweep the streets, anything that needs done, they'll do it. They'll fix our equipment, they'll paint, whatever needs to be done, they do it. They do a great job.
Pave the streets.
Yeah, paving, they patch a lot of holes. I mean, especially this time of year, it's starting to thaw, there'll be a lot of potholes around, so they'll go out and get a hot patch or cold patch and patch up the streets. They clean out the drains every time they plow. I mean, a lot of stuff that they do. We could probably do as much here as departments twice our size, and those guys really work hard. And Russ, our police chief, you'll see him, and he'll come out and have a report in a minute. He's also in charge of the street department. One thing we had talked about, I mentioned earlier, there was some mention of a new vehicle being purchased for one of our officers. We have what we call a drug law enforcement trust fund. And what happens with that is we have officers on the federal side, and we also have an officer who works for the county. And anytime they're involved in an arrest of any sort, say for instance they had a $100,000 arrest for growing marijuana, and our officer was 20% involved in that, then we would get $20,000 would come to us from that officer's participation in that. So over the years, we've been able to build that to $200,000, $300,000 that we have sitting in that account, which everything from the police department we can buy 100%. Doesn't cost any money to the taxpayers. So this new vehicle that we're going to buy for him is from that. All our police cars that you see, any weapons, anything from the police department is paid from that drug fund. And we're one of the few places around that do that. I don't know why more people don't. It seems like a no-brainer to me, but that really helps us a lot. Talking about the estate tax, Mrs. Cernick used to be our fiscal officer, and now her husband is. And over the time that she was involved, what council before me and made the decision for the state fund for the state tax, you really could never tell what it was going to be. Some years you might get $100,000, some years you might get $10,000. What the council decided to do So, we can't really count on this money coming in, we don't know what it's going to be, so we can't budget it. So what they decided to do is put it aside in a fund, and over the years, that fund's grown to probably the highest point was like $1.2 million we had, and which has really helps us now, because as our money is dwindling and we get stuck in the budget, sometimes we over-forecast what we're going to have and we don't have enough money, we can dip into that fund and help us, which is, we don't try to do that, but it's there for us. It gives us a good option that we wouldn't have without that. So, prior council members and Mrs. Sternick and all the people that did that, we owe a debt of gratitude to them because it really helps us out going forward. What else do we do? We have, of course, the Celebrate Poland. We were involved with that. And it takes place on our grounds down here with the fireworks. We do the Christmas stuff. We are involved in the Memorial Day Parade. So for a small town, we're about 25 to 2,700 people in Poland Village, I'd say. For a small town, we're pretty active with the stuff that we do. So you don't really see it until you come to these meetings. Some of you people have been here before. Ken Adams, I've seen him before. I sort of have an idea what goes on, but if you don't think about it, it's sort of outside, out of mind. And the Violations Bureau, too, I think it's a good thing. I mean, like Anthony said, if you want to contest it, you have other options, but it's a good thing for us. And there used to be a thing called a mayor's court, and before the mayor, just like myself, you would come to court maybe once a month, and you would hear all the cases. So if someone wanted to come to us and contest their speeding thing rather than going to Struthers like they do now, I would sit here and hear the facts of the case. The police officer would go through it with us, and we would decide at that point, guilty, not guilty, what was their fine. And we had some litigation several years ago that we had to get rid of the mayor's court. Other places still do it. I know New Middletown does it. I think Canfield does it. So it's not uncommon to have a mayor's court, but Struthers, it sort of helps us. We don't get involved in it if they want to go contest that, but it also hurts us from a financial standpoint because they keep most of the proceeds if it goes to Struthers. So catch-22 sometimes.
And the fine money is nice, but it's not the driving force for us. Is to keep the town safe. We have a lot of schools in this little village. We have a lot of pedestrian traffic, and we're just asking people when they come through our town to obey the rules so we can protect our citizens and the children in this community.
As far as the fire department is concerned, it's a joint fire district. Us and the township share the fire department, and they protect both of us, but we have people on the fire board that sort of go and listen to their meetings and see what they're doing, but we don't really regulate them. A lot of that stuff is passed through levies, so if they want new equipment or new whatever, they do their own thing there, but they sort of work with both towns, village and township. And leaf removal, that's one of our best things. We have is leaf pickup, I forgot about that. If you live in the village, you sweep your leaves to the edge of the street, and the people come around and pick them up as many times as they have to do it. So it usually starts in October, November, and they're probably not done until March. Yeah, this year. Normally late December they get them all done. But that's a free service to the village residents, which is very nice. Can I go home?
Ask them if they got any questions now.
All right, do you have any more questions? Mr. Major wants to know. All right. If there's any projects that the Eagle Scouts want to do with us, in the village, I know there's people in the past from Troop 44 have done some things here. We'd love to have you come and with the woods or anything around town. If something interests them, come to us and present it to us. We'd be glad to work with you if that comes up.
Great.
All right. All right, 7:30, please stand for Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call of members.
Mr. Cassett. Here. Mr. Donovan. Here. Attorney Limmer. Here. Mr. Major.
Here.
Mrs. Cernick.
Here.
Mrs. Yash.
Here.
All present.
Okay, acceptance of the minutes from the previous council meeting. Motion to waive the reading and accept the written.
Second.
All in favor?
Abstain.
Opposed? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
think it's, love that seat there.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Nice to meet you, Ken. Thanks. If we could observe a moment of silence. I don't know if everyone knows, but on this past Sunday, Sonny Chenoweth passed away. He was a former captain of the fire department, and his service can be, what, Thursday, Jeff? Calling hours
Thursday, funeral Friday.
Okay.
I'm sure Mrs. Yasher will report on that.
Yeah, I'll report
So
on
we
it.
can just observe a moment of silence for Mr. Chenoweth, please. Thank you. Okay, notification of meetings and events to the public and news media. I'm sorry, blooper. Just reading it.
Yeah, we met the next one.
Finance,
We're working on putting together the next meeting.
legislation,
Nothing.
please.
The police will hold their monthly meeting March 4th at 6:30 here at Town Hall.
Streets,
Third Tuesday at 6:30, that'll be the 18th of March.
okay. Boards, ARB,
We will be meeting Thursday, March 6th, 7 p.m., Village Hall.
planning,
Tomorrow night here at 7 o'clock.
there is an agenda, right?
Yes, Mr. Mastriano's going to be here and the Historic Preservation.
Okay. Board of Zoning Appeals,
Nothing scheduled.
Western Reserve Fire District.
Western Reserve Fire District will meet in March, which will be March 12th at 7:30 p.m. at the Poland Township building.
Forest Board,
Fourth Tuesday at 7:30, that'll be the 25th. I think that's the 25th.
yes. And High Memorial.
We have nothing scheduled right now.
Okay. Report from Mayor, I don't have anything other than that the January Violations Bureau has been balanced, the account.
Motion to approve the mayor's report.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Report from Fiscal Officer, Mr. Cernick.
Okay, I'm circulating around a list of bills to be paid. You have in your packet the January numbers. The bank reconciliation is completed for the month of January, reconciled, also circulating that for your signatures. You will have before you tonight an ordinance authorizing an increase in the appropriations from Law Enforcement Trust Fund in the amount of $20,000 and the Drug Law Enforcement Fund for $500. Russ is requesting to go to a homicide investigation seminar. That fund was actually zero at the beginning of the year, appropriated, so all we're doing is raising it $500. And also, there's a resolution attached requesting our advances and a report.
Motion to accept next report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Anything from the Deputy Clerk?
No.
Okay. Report from Zoning Administrator.
Okay, a couple things. The first is, I talked to our new street commissioner today. He asked if he's required.
Tree Commissioner. You said street.
Sorry, I meant tree. Okay, thank you. Our new tree commissioner, James, he asked me if he was required to attend every meeting. I told him I honestly don't know the answer to that. He said that he was planning on attending the first meeting of every month, and he would be available if asked to come to the second meeting of every month.
I don't think he needs to come.
Okay.
I think you want to look under, I think there's some requirements in ARB.
Okay.
That I think he's supposed to attend those and he acts as an advisor, but I'm not sure. There's something like that.
Is that the position established through ARB?
Yeah, I believe so. I have to check into that.
Okay, thank you for telling me that, because I did not know that. Next thing, I received a notice that Mr. Barnheiser at 12 Pullen Manor did receive our certified letter. So Anthony, that was to you, information to you. Okay? About the gas station, I did make a call to the gas station with no response. Okay. And
What's the issue there?
roof's falling off. Condition. I know it's under snow at this point, but it's deteriorating. So,
Who owns it now?
unknown. There's it's for sale. Well, he owns the building. The sign that has the number, I called and they just rang and rang and rang. Yeah. So, if someone knows Ed's number, Ed Frostek's phone number, I'd be happy to call him. Also, Bob Mastriana had asked for a letter from the village, basically on letterhead, asking us to vacate the abandoned right-of-way where Pennsylvania crosses 224. So if you look on official maps, tax maps, there is the intent of having a road go from Pennsylvania at the post office and then loop around to Audubon. It was never done. The reason he's asking for this, he's saying that if we were to vacate the abandoned right-of-way for that road that does not exist, we could specify that it be used for public parking. He wants it because he's interested in purchasing the Misher property to develop it for a mixed-use type of development. That would be partly commercial, partly residential. What he said was that he doesn't have the room, in other words, the square footage, to put in enough parking without this abandoned right-of-way.
Away from the Planning Commission, I'm thinking putting the cart before the horse. Okay, first project has to be reviewed by the Planning Commission to make sure that it complies with the zoning conditions, and if there's any variances required. I don't think we want to vacate the property for use for parking, although if the project does fly, it would make sense to do that. But I think the order of what he wants things done is incorrect.
Okay.
And on top of that, I'm not aware of when the village designated that or how it designated it to be a right-of-way. And when that happened, I'd have to find that in either an ordinance or in a motion or something so that I can advise you if you can abate that intent. And then have to follow a formal request. He can't just ask you to ask us to do that. It would have to be written with the specific intent of why he wants to do it, what his plan would be if the village did abate their right-of-way. And I'd have to check all that out. So he's, like Mr. Donovan said, he's about 4 steps in front of the horse right now, not just one.
Doesn't have to be part of the whole plan that he's trying to, put in there?
Yeah, the whole plan should be presented to the Planning Commission.
Do it piecemeal.
And then the Planning Commission, if he makes that request, I believe he should make the request for the parking area to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission make a recommendation to council.
Okay.
Did we give that easement to Misher when he was looking at?
No, we did not.
I don't...
No.
All that would have to be, have to dig into all the history of that.
Yeah, so this, okay.
Yeah, and what I'd ask him to do is to provide us with a property search where it's found that there was a designated right-of-way. What is he referring to so I can then take it from there? I don't think the village should have to go find the right-of-way for him to then ask to be abated. I want to know what he's referring to, bring it to me, and then I'll take it from there. But
Absolutely.
it has to be all laid out.
Okay.
Yeah, Chris, we're going to put a road there,
Was that when Misher was going to...
Yeah.
So it would come in at the light
Yeah.
and turn right.
That's how it's written
Is
on
that how
the
it
map
is?
that I've seen.
So it's on the map?
Pennsylvania and Scoville attach into a...
Right, that's been there, let's say, forever. Not just when Misher had the
So it
property.
looks like the street would be behind the post office. It doesn't go into Audubon.
Well, the way that he's talking about is here.
Misher was going to do that.
Right, he said it goes Pennsylvania to Audubon, which is not designated, it goes Pennsylvania that way.
That's interesting.
So he needs to,
Yeah. I think he's talking.
I think he's talking here.
That's Pennsylvania.
Right along Pennsylvania, because what he wants is, he wants to put the building
Right.
here, and he wants to have diagonal parking along this area, just beyond where the entrance is for the post
It
office.
sounds like he thinks the road goes the other way.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering, because it seemed like it would be this that he'd be
Right,
worried about.
right.
I actually, the way I thought I saw it was this way, and that would have been on tax maps, if I'm not mistaken. And it's just written as a blue line.
We'll get more information
Okay.
on that for you.
Okay. I have one other thing. I have court tomorrow for the Eisenstein property, so not a second pretrial.
And where do you stand on that?
Well, I had an initial pretrial. Met with the Struthers prosecutor and Mr. Eisenstein's attorney. Mr. Eisenstein's attorney didn't really have anything at that time to even discuss. He basically said he was just put on this case and didn't have any information. So that was where he was at that time. And that would have been about a month ago, approximately a month ago. So, see what he says. I don't plan on saying much. So.
And is anything scheduled after this free trial?
No. The way I understand it is that the judge wants things to be resolved out of court. And the way I understand it is he will continue to schedule pre-trials until the point comes where it absolutely cannot be solved out of court. That's the way I understand it. Maybe Anthony has a better understanding of how the process works.
Is he going before Judge Lanza or the magistrate? Usually,
At this point, we sit in the prosecutor's office and try and hash it out.
yeah. Normally what happens is it'll go before the magistrate first to try to resolve it. And if the magistrate can't get it resolved amongst the parties, then it would go either to him for a hearing or the judge. If it goes to the magistrate and we don't like the ruling, then it would be objected to and then the judge would hear it. If we don't like the ruling, then it would be appealed. So it gives you one more level of hearing to decide what we want to do.
Okay.
But I'm just wondering, they don't bring you in, do they talk to the magistrate or judge? Do they go?
We sat in front of the prosecutor.
Huh?
Like I said, at the last time, he really didn't have anything to say. He just said, "I'm brand new to this case. I just got on it. I don't know much about it."
Okay.
That's really all he said.
We'll give him a minute, and he'll, keep going on it, I hope, and I imagine you'll be included more in the process than you go.
At that time, we had a discovery. I gave him copies of everything that we have, our whole case. So
When do you go back again?
tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow. Okay.
So at tomorrow's pretrial, I don't plan on saying much, if anything. I have nothing to say at this point. I've given him everything that we have. I think everything speaks for itself. I don't see negotiations happening. I'm not planning on negotiating. So.
The letter that went to Barnheiser, I think it was excellent.
Oh, thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you, Anthony.
Yep. Great job, you guys. And you got verification?
Yeah, I have the response here that he signed for it.
What date?
He signed for it on the 6th of February.
6th. Okay, so you probably got till the first week in March to be reasonable. I gave him till the 28th because I thought he would get it within a week. So just pushes it back to the first week in March.
Okay. And what is our next step, if I may ask at this time?
Well, once you have given him notice, which is required by statute, let's see what I want. Remember, you have to give him a reasonable amount of time. The council declared it a nuisance, which we did, and gave him the minutes where it was done. Notice was given, and then you give him a reasonable amount of time to clean up the abatement. Which takes me to here. If he fails to do that, then I believe that Dom would then charge him with the ordinance. which would be an unclassified misdemeanor. So once he's failed to comply with the ordinance, and we followed the rule, we've given him the notice, given him time to have the certification, the next step would be he'd be charged.
By us?
We would be the ones who present it to the prosecutor who represents the village on criminal matters, and he would file the charge.
Okay.
He would work with him, just like he did on Eiselstein. Same process.
Okay.
We gather the evidence, we present it, and then he has to decide to charge, but I imagine he will.
Very good.
Motion to accept the zoning administrator report.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Report from solicitor.
All right. The tree commissioner is to come to the meetings of the board as needed, from what I can tell in the ordinance. So it's whenever you folks want him there, would be when he should come. And from what I see,
The architectural review board.
yes, yes. I don't know if council remembers, maybe it was 2 months ago now, there was a class action lawsuit that the village is a part of as a plaintiff. There were derivatives from Bank of America and some other companies, and I said at the time nothing was required of the village if you wanted to be a part of it. It's moving along, and there's a proposed settlement with regard to Bank of America only. There are a couple other defendants who have not settled, and the lawsuit would proceed with them, but this is only for the portion that involves Bank of America. The amount of the settlement is, I think, $18 million, which is really not much in a class action. The amount to each plaintiff would be determined by how many plaintiffs agree to be part of the settlement. So if you only have, I don't know how many there are. The plaintiffs are the City of Baltimore, Maryland, Central Bucks School District. They're the main plaintiffs, Bucks County Water and Sewer. And then anyone who purchased derivatives, municipal derivatives from 1992 to 2011, which would be a lot of people, a lot of entities, are plaintiffs. So once they know how many plaintiffs agree to the settlement or agree to be part of it, then they'll divide up that $18 million, and then we'll know the amount that we get.
Anthony, what's the subject here? What are you talking about?
This was between 1992 and 2011. The Village of Poland bought municipal derivatives or sold them.
Yeah.
Okay, we had a sweep account with Chase.
Okay.
Okay, now if Chase purchased, and I understand that's what the whole thing was being investigated for, because we as a government entity are not permitted to invest in derivatives. That's a no-no. So and they knew that. We had an agreement. So if they purchased any derivatives with our money, then that's why we're in the suit.
It says you have been identified as an entity that may have purchased one or more municipal derivatives that were sold during that time frame, 1992 to 2011. If you purchased a municipal derivative transaction from one or more of the defendants or brokered by one or more of the defendants, you may be a member of the class action.
Okay.
So that's why we're in it. I don't know the specifics, but that's how we were identified. The defendants are Bank of America, National Westminster Bank, Taxes Funding, Piper Jaffray, UBS, Society Generale. So, again, what we have to do to stand it is nothing. You just don't object. If we want out, we would have to notify them. I don't think there's any reason to get out of it because we're not going to pursue it otherwise. And then once they know how many plaintiffs are on board, we'll get another notice as to what we might get. I'm imagining it's going to be 1,000, 2,000, maybe for lucky. But it's going to be something. Yeah, it'll be something. So just got that. So we're still in it. I'll keep track of this. I received a notice from the attorney Did everyone get a copy of the letter that I sent to Attorney Thornton, who represents the folks on Riverside and the bank building, about their options? Okay. And I gave them 10 days to decide if they want their own surveyor. Apparently they do want their own surveyor. I received the fax last week that it was Attorney Thornton's understanding that these folks are getting a surveyor. They'll be in contact with us once the survey has been done. So I'll wait, I'll take a look at it. I think I put it in the letter, and I know I did, that simply by getting a survey does not mean that we are forfeiting our right to pursue them. I'm just going to, they hadn't convinced me up until that point was what I was trying to explain to them. If you want one more crack at it, I'll give that to you, then I'll decide. So I'm waiting to get it. I'll take a look. I'll talk to Attorney Leone again, and then the other Leones, and then I'll let council know what my opinion is.
Anthony, on that matter, did you receive a copy of the letter that I had sent to them? I put it into your box?
Yes.
Of the original letter? Okay.
Yeah,
so you know exactly what they got?
And I alluded to it, but I didn't tell them what it was.
I'm not sure what you mean.
And the letter I sent back, they said we didn't give them notice, and I said we did.
Sure.
But they should talk to their clients about that, and we can provide that if we have to.
Yeah.
Oh,
no, absolutely. There's no doubt about that.
All right, that's the end of my report.
Okay, go ahead.
Motion to accept the solicitor's report?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Rushback?
No, Russ is at a meeting with the Western Reserve Fire
All
District.
right, so report from Chief of Police and Street Commissioner.
Yeah, they're in writing. If you need any questions, I can answer them. We had talked earlier about purchasing a new vehicle from Greenwood Chevrolet. We will be trading in 2 vehicles for the purchase of this one to add on to it. Let's see, streets. He said, other than minor repairs, all equipment is in good working order, and we will make sure that the salt will last. That was it.
For streets, Chris?
Yeah.
As far as all equipment being in good working order, there was some discussion at the finance meeting with Russ about a truck, an important truck for streets that is old and not...
Streets meeting. That was a police meeting. Streets is next week. Science meeting in 2 weeks.
I don't know about...
Finance, I'm talking about, he spoke to us about a truck that was in poor condition.
She wasn't there.
A street vehicle
Yes.
that he's talking about. Okay, because it's listed, under the streets.
Yeah, we had a police meeting, we didn't address anything in the streets.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Anybody on streets aware of
Joe, would you
this?
know about it?
I am.
No.
Okay.
I'm on streets, I'm aware of it.
Okay.
Oh, explain it, please.
Russ wants to buy a new small dump truck. It's the lifeline of our fleet, if you will. It's very versatile. What is it? It's an old one, 76 or something like this.
79, I believe.
79. And he approached finance about buying a new truck, and we're talking about it in finance.
Gotcha.
So it might be a question on that.
But he didn't mention it to us, though.
I know.
He didn't mention it to streets. Hasn't gotten that far.
He came to finance first.
Okay, Mark, thank you.
Would you be able to shed any light on the fact that if we're going to keep repairing that vehicle all year long and throwing that money away and then still need to buy a new vehicle?
I'm going to meet with Russ this weekend, talk about it,
Okay.
take a look at the truck myself. So,
What's he talking price-wise for a new dump truck?
here we told us.
Around 80,000?
80,000, yeah. That was the top. 80
That
was the top.
is a decked out.
That was 60 to 80.
Because it has to have a special bed made to accommodate the leaf machine,
Okay.
so on and so forth.
Okay, motion to approve the Chief of Police and the Street Commissioner's report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Report from engineer.
Oh, wait, you were going to contact him about getting some money from someplace, right? I think you asked Russ,
Gary.
but you asked somebody last time if there was any money available on grants. Remember? Did you?
I saw him at an Eastgate meeting end of January, and he was supposed to send me stuff. He asked me.
Oh, okay.
I'll try and track him down.
Okay.
So here's the big thing with that, though, Tim. And because we're looking at budget right now, and that's why we're kind of talking about this truck issue, we knew that we couldn't do paving every single year, and because we cannot go to our lifeline for any emergency and use it all for paving like we did last year with a $100,000 project every year. This year, if we're looking at a truck that is that expensive and we need to function, we're going to have to probably do the truck and not even consider any kind of paving. But we are working on this budget. We hope to bring you more information at the next meeting. You know we have to have our budget passed by the second meeting of March in order to make the deadline so we don't lose any local government funds.
But Nick maybe can explore what we need.
Regarding?
The budget, and we have something's coming due, right? And Bill wanted to pave, and you said, no, we can't do that.
Okay, you know what, I'm going to talk about that in the finance report.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
What percent was that?
Percent.
Yeah.
You mean the levy that's due now?
Yeah.
Levy that's due is our largest, it's the lifeline of this
If we
town.
don't pass that,
It's 3.2 renewal.
That's
Right,
it,
this is our
3.2.
largest one.
Yeah. Okay.
Got to pass it.
That's what I was
Close the doors.
alluding to. Yeah.
So I'll call Gary, see what's out there, if it matters. Reports from outstanding committees of council, finance, wage, audit, and insurance.
Okay, and then we're right into it. So we had our meeting on the 11th. We are actively working on this budget. We are considering all requests that were turned in. And as we were just saying, we wanted to check and be sure about the timeline on the levy, and it does expire in 2014. It's the 3.2. It's the largest revenue that comes into this town. I have checked on renewal. The soonest time that it can be put on the ballot would be this fall. Okay. Ideally, that is what you try to do. So, you know, we're not looking to have any lapse, even if we put it, if it would fail, which we hope it will not, we would have 2 more chances to put it on in the next year and still have it no lapse in the time period for collection, because remember, you're always 1 year behind on getting your tax revenue in. So in other words, this year we're getting 13s, okay? So that's why this plays out the way that it does.
What was the millage?
Millage is 3.2.
Thank you.
The other one that we had was the 2 mil that was up most recently for renewal. And then, of course, we have the 1 mil police. So this is the year that we have the large one. So we really need to, you know, remind our citizens of that and to ask that they renew and that we keep services, because that's what keeps us going here.
Motion to accept the finance report.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Legislation and policy.
Nothing to report.
Police and fire.
Well, nothing, I'll wait for West School.
Street, sidewalks, and drainage. And blooper.
Yeah, we met tonight, and we agreed to recommend to implement a fee structure for use of the grounds here, Village Hall, wherever, the Fireman's Field, and so forth. And what we had considered was a $100 per day fee for use of grounds for non-resident applicants, plus a $50 refundable security deposit, and then a $50 per day for Poland Village residents, and for Poland Village organizations, plus a $50 refundable security deposit. And if the Poland organization would happen to be running a commercial type of activity, we would make a charge. We consider a commercial use as money is being charged for admission. or vendors are involved with the activity, they are charged a fee for participation and/or are participating for profit. We're going to bring that to council probably at the next meeting. Just a couple questions for Anthony. This form that's been in place is what we're using as a model. The highlighted areas are what we're changing. Now, is an ordinance required, or is a motion or resolution to implement that fee and to implement that form? Would that be appropriate?
I don't think you need an ordinance. I think a motion would be fine.
Okay. Well, I'll complete the form, make the edits that we talked about. Council at the next meeting and make a motion for its approval.
There's going to be 3 readings, or just a resolution, 1 chapter?
I think we should do it as an emergency because people are already starting to put in applications and we want to get this cooking as quickly as possible.
If it's a motion, it would take effect immediately.
Oh, yeah, it's a motion. Right. That's true. Okay, did you want to bring up something about the electrical?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Has the letter gone to the Board of Education?
I have not got it. I mean, I talked to them, but I have not got anything back from them yet.
But are you going to send them a letter of request?
Yes.
Okay.
I've talked to 2 people already, superintendent and another school board member.
Okay, but are you going to send them an official letter of request?
Well, yeah. I thought it had been done by now, but I guess I need to do that.
Yeah, we got to get cooking on
Yeah.
that because
We don't want to.
February we're going to be into we squeeze on and get things done. Edit report.
Motion to accept Bill's report.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Report from the boards, Planning Commission.
Nothing.
Board of Zoning Appeals. ARB.
I have one thing. When I spoke with James, the tree commissioner, he said that he started the process of applying for Tree City USA. He said it's a year-long process to get approved.
Okay, who's the council for ARB? Council member?
That would be Linda.
Okay. Thank you. Motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Forest Board?
Nothing.
Hyde Memorial? And West Reserve Fire District.
Yes, Western Reserve Fire District is going to be holding their 16th annual spaghetti dinner. It'll be Sunday, March 2nd from 12 to 6 at the Poland United Methodist Church. It's dine-in, all you can eat, or carry-out. And Jeff Rabel has some tickets if you'd like to purchase them. And on a sadder note about Sonny Chenoweth's passing, the services will be held Thursday from 4 to 7 at Cunningham's. Funeral service will be at the Methodist Church at 11 a.m. Friday. After that service, there will be a procession from the Methodist to the Riverside Cemetery, and that Russ is with the Western Reserve Fire District tonight because they'll be honoring Sonny and not a parade, but the procession's going to have other fire trucks in it, and that. So we're going to have roads closed, just to let everybody know. Coming down 224. And that is it.
Motion to accept the report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Report from special committees. Communications from residents. Sir.
Hello.
Tell us who you are. I know you are. Where you live.
Ken Adams, 354 Johnston Place. Just making my annual stop as far as my street. My driveway approach is off of the unpaved portion of Alverne. We've had some issues with it in the past, and it was regraded. And for the last few years, there's an elevation right after my driveway. The work that was done basically ended right at my driveway, and then there's an elevation, so I get Lake Alverne at the end of my drive. I printed out the pictures. It's one of those situations where it's just always a mess. The drive's always a mess. I know there's only 2 of us that use this area, and that's why it's so difficult for you guys, I'm sure, to pass anything to do this. But the worst part is when company comes over. The first thing I hear when they come to my door is it okay to park on the street or the school, because I didn't want to drive my car through your muddle. So I just really like to see if we can get something done with it. Like I said, there was an elevation where the gate used to be, and if that could be leveled out so the water can spread out. Otherwise, it's just a mess again. And that picture's from last year, about the same time of year, and it's only gotten bigger. That's actually not even as filled as it gets in that photo. So, in the winter time, it's a nice pocket. I pull out of my drive, gotta spin my wheels to get out, and so. All right. I appreciate your time.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, any new business? Any old business? Motions, ordinances, and resolutions.
I'd like to make a motion to waive the 3 readings to pass by emergency, a resolution or tax advances.
Second?
Roll call?
Mr. Cassett?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Attorney Limmer?
Yes.
Mr. Major? Attorney Major? Mr. Major?
Yes.
Sorry. Mrs. Cerny?
Yes?
Mrs. Yash?
Yes.
6-0.
I'd like to pass the issue of a resolution to authorize the fiscal officer to make any or all necessary requests for available tax advances during the year of 2014 and to declare an emergency.
Second?
Roll call?
Mr. Cassett?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Attorney Limmer?
Yes.
Mr. Major?
Yes.
Mrs. Cerny?
Yes.
Mrs. Yash?
Yes.
6-0.
I'd like to make a motion to waive the 3 readings to pass by emergency and ordinance to amend the temporary appropriations for 2014.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Cassett?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Attorney Limmer?
Yes.
Mr. Major?
Yes.
Mrs. Cerny?
Yes.
Mrs. Yash?
Yes.
6-0.
I'd like to make a motion for an ordinance amending ordinance number 1339-08, 2014 temporary appropriations, and to declare an emergency.
Second.
Roll call?
Cassett?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Attorney Limmer?
Yes.
Mr. Major?
Yes.
Mrs. Cerny?
Yes.
Mrs. Yash?
Yes.
6-0.
All right, any other motions, ordinances, or resolutions? Second and third readings. Presentation of the bills.
Make a motion that the bills be paid.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Questions from the news media? Remarks by council. I would like to say, the primary's in March, right? May. Okay, all right. So I was thinking we would change our next meeting. We don't. Okay, Mrs. Cerny.
I'd just like to say that Sonny Chenoweth did a great job all those years, and he will be sadly missed in our community.
Mr. Limmer.
No comment.
Yes.
I'll echo Linda's remarks.
Mr. Cassett.
29 days till spring.
I'm sure it'll be really nice. Mr. Donovan.
Yeah, I grew up across the street from Sonny, and I knew him for a lot of years. Good guy. He'll be missed.
Yes, sir.
I echo that also. I went out there to visit with him on Sunday, and I found out he died at 8:05 Sunday morning. He's a great guy. He was in hospice. Only one day.
Wow.
You didn't like it?
All right, Linda, do your thing.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn to executive session for personnel on compensation of a public employee. And I would like to ask if Mr. Cerny can be present in case there are any questions about money. It has nothing to do with his position. So if he would be there only if there's questions, if you have anything that you need to ask about money.
Okay.
Second?
Roll call.
Mr. Mr. Cassett?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Attorney Lemmer?
Yes.
Mr. Major?
Yes.
Mrs. Stern?
Yes.
Mrs. Yash?
Yes.
60810.
How about